So today we're going through the Edexcel May 2019 Paper 1 Foundation tier. This is the fourth video in this series, so please check out videos 1 through 3 to look at questions 1 to 12. Today we're going to be doing questions 13, 14, 15 and 16. Starting off with question 13. The length of a line is x centimetres. Write down an expression in terms of x for the length of the line in millimetres. So, fortunately, we're allowed to take a ruler into our exams, so we can use that to help us answer this. If we ever have a look at our ruler closely, we'll see that for each centimetre, we have lots of little lines in between. And if we count up these lines, we'll see that there's 10 lines. So this big jump here is a centimetre, which will be marked on your ruler. And then a smaller line here. These are millimetres. So there are 10 millimetres in a centimetre. So 1 centimetre is equal to 10 millimetres. So if the line is x centimetres long, well, each centimetre is 10 millimetres in it, so it's 10 times more millimetres. So we'll have 10x millimetres. And remember, units is always a great idea to have. So 10x millimetres, and that's our answer for question 13. Now, question 14, work out a fifth of 70. So a fifth of 70, that's 70 over 5. And this is easier if we think of this as 70 divided by 5. So now what's 70 divided by 5? My favourite method of doing division is called the bus stop method. So if we write 70, the thing to be divided inside, and we write 5 next to it. So we start off going along, so what's 7 divided by 5? Well, we can fit 1 5 in there. So we get a 1 up here, and then we move along, and there's 2 left over, so we put a 2 up here to get 20. Now what's 20 divided by 5? Well, this may come as a surprise, but as we worked out earlier, we've done our 5 times tables up here. So if we just scroll back through, we get 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5 is 15, 4 times 5 is 20. So that's the answer we're looking for. 4 times 5 is 20. So here we're doing 20 divided by 5. So that is 4. So we get 70 divided by 5 equal to 14. Fiona has to work out the exact value of 48 divided by half. She writes 48 divided by half is equal to 24. Fiona's reason is there are 2 halves in 1, so there will be 24 halves in 48. Explain what is wrong with Fiona's reason. I'm just going to swap over to typing because I think that'll be a little bit easier for you to read. So she divided by 2 when she should have multiplied by 2. The actual answer should be 48 times 2, which is equal to 96. So again, this is a maths paper, so we're looking for a short, sharp reason. She divided by 2 when she should have times by 2, because it all comes down to this, divided by a half. This is not the same as divided by 2. When we divide by a half, dividing by a half is actually the same as doing times by 2, which is why we do 48 times 2. You can think of it as sort of a half is a bit like dividing by 2. So what we're doing is dividing by 2. And these two sort of, when you do a divide and a divide, that's the same as doing a multiply. So we get times 2 here, which is where Fiona made a little slip up. Hopefully none of us are going to be doing that. Right, now on to question 15. So for this one, this is really a case of knowing your times tables here. So what's the square root of 64? So we're interested in square numbers here. So the answer is 8, but how do we get to that? Well, if we work through our squares, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, little squared up there. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, carry on up here, 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 7 is 49, and lastly, the one we're looking for, 8 times 8 is 64. Now these, you can work all of these out if you want to in the exam, but that's going to take up a lot of your time, so I'd highly recommend you memorise these because that would be really helpful when it comes to exam time. And if we look at part B, we're going to be putting one of these into use straight away. Work out the value of 5 cubed. Now 5 cubed is equal to 5 times 5 times 5. Now if we break this down, we'll do this one first. What's 5 times 5? That's equal to 25 as we got up here. So we get equals to 25. And don't forget the last 5, so we get 25 times 5. Now this is a little bit more complicated. We've got 2-digit number here, so we go straight to grid multiplication. So 20 and 5 and 5. Line through here. So now 20 times 5. We'll ignore the 0 to begin with. What's 2 times 5? That's 10. Now bring the 0 back in to the end. That's 100. Now 5 times 5, we already know that's 25. So 25 there. Now, column addition here to work out the final answer. So in the first column we have 0 plus 5 is 5. Next we have 0 plus 2, that's 2. And lastly we just have a 1 here, so it's 125. That's our final answer. 5 cubed is quite a common kind of thing to come up, so it might be worth learning that as well. And then you can always work it out like this, but just back it up by a bit of sort of memorised knowledge beforehand. Moving on to question 16. So first up, expand 5 brackets to m minus 3. So I'd like to draw little lines here. So we're going to do 5 times 2m. I'm going to do 5 times minus 3 because there are 2 parts inside this bracket and the 5 on the outside applies to both of them. That's why the bracket's there. The bracket essentially means please times everything inside me by this 5 here. So first up, 5 times 2m. Don't get flustered by the m here. If we just ignore that for a second, 5 times 2 is 10. And then put the m back. If it helps, you could think of m a bit like meters. It's not in this instance, but if we had 2 meters and we wanted to times that by 5, we'd do 5 times 2 and we'd get 10 meters here. I think it's easy when we're doing algebra to get a bit worried about what happens with x or n in this case, but just treat it like any other number. So now, we've done 5 times 2m, now we want to do 5 times minus 3. So 5 times minus 3 is equal to minus 15. Again, I won't scroll all the way back up, but we did our 5 times tables and we found 5 times 3 is 15. We can ignore the minus to begin with, just do 5 times 3 is 15 and then add it back in at the end. So now putting this all together, we get 10m minus 15. That's our final answer there. So that's part A done. Now moving on to part B. Factorize 3n plus 12. So what we're looking at is we're trying to come up with a similar expression here where we've got 2 terms inside the brackets and we've pulled something out of both of them that they both share. So the way I like to start this is to sort of break it down. So 3n. Is there any way we can break this down further? Well, it's 3 times n. But n, we don't know anything about n. That could be anything. It could be 1, 0, 100. So we're just going to leave that be for a while. And now 3 is a prime number. So we can't factor that anymore. It's 1 times 3, but getting a 1, that's not very helpful. That confuses things. So we'll leave that as 3. Next, we've got the 12. This we can do something with. You can take any factor out you like here. So for me, I'm going to do 2 times 6. 2 times 6. Is this fully factored? Well, 2. 2 is a prime number, we know. It's 1 times 2. We can't pull anything more out of that, but 6 isn't prime. We can factor that a bit more, and 6 is equal to 2 times 3. So we get 2 times 2 times 3 for 12. Now, looking back up here, we've got 3 times n. So now we want to compare 3n and 2 times 2 times 3. We will notice immediately they've both got a 3 in them. Is there anything else we can pull out? Well, it's n here. We don't know anything about n. And we've got 2 times 2. So there's nothing on this side that we can match up with either of these two. So we have to leave them for now. So we bring out the 3. On the first term, n was left behind. So we put an n here. And on the second term, we had 2 times 2. So what we want to do is put the 2 times 2 back together. 2 times 2 is 4. And this is our final answer. 3 brackets n plus 4. So there we have it. Our final answer. Thanks again for watching this video. It really helps me if you like and subscribe. And please leave any comments down below on anything you'd like to see in further videos, any topics you'd like to go over in more detail. I'll be happy to give those a go, explain some more difficult concepts. But thanks for watching, and catch you again next week.